Hey guys, welcome back. As always, I appreciate you being here. I wanted to take a minute to share with you my latest project that came into the shop. This is going to be a collab kind of a thing between my company, my YouTube channel, and a couple of community members and some contacts and friends of friends, and we got together and we jumped on board with a new project, so I wanted to share it with you. We got a drift car, we got a time attack car, we got an S14. Woo! So there she is. Let me turn this thing around for you. So what are we doing? What do we got going on here? So this is owned by a friend of a friend. His name's Andy. We've been talking for a few months about his car. He's done some time attack stuff. He's done some autocross. He's done track days. He's done a bunch of stuff, and so they've been working on doing a motor swap on this thing and changing over some aero packages and testing out some new aero design and testing out some new suspension design and trying to do some custom stuff with it and get it back on the track at the same time. So this was an RB car. I think it was an RB25. It had a turbo on it, and he was trying to make consistent power with it, but he consistently had issues rather than making consistent power. So he finally bit the bullet, and he's going LS. So it's had some cage work done already. Dash is out of it. They've done some tunnel work. They've done a bunch of prep work for the LS, and they're at the point where they're building the motor and getting the motor put together, and they got a fabricator to take care of a lot of the fabrication. They've got a suspension guy on the team, so we've got a suspension, and we've got an aero package designer and a couple other guys. So I decided to jump on board because I'm kind of skilled in doing customs and doing fit and finish and taking a diamond in the rough and making it out of something that nobody else could really make something out of. I don't think that would have been the case with these guys, but I definitely seen some gaps that I could fill with the project and with the team. So I decided to go ahead and jump on board and Here she is. So this is a S14. It's got S15 rear quarters and fronts grafted onto the S14 chassis, so that's why it looks a little bit different. The whole front end has been cut off and some tube work has been put in place. So we're going to redesign this front core support area because there's going to be a rear mount radiator, which you probably caught a glimpse of. We're going to work on the aero package for the rear mount radiator. We're not going to bring it in through the back window like most of these guys do. We're going to try and bring it in through the side. So I'm going to be working on some custom ducts here. That's going to be one of my projects down the road. Just to give you a rough timetable, by March, this thing's going to be on the track and running. So right now we've got a timetable of getting the engine in and getting the engine to fire and idle on its own by the end of December. So right now we're midway through November, which means we've got 6 weeks to get the engine compartment prepped, the front core support taken care of, get all the fabrication in the engine compartment finalized, get it prepped for the engine, get the engine installed, install the new wiring and ECU, which is going to be a double standalone unit. We're going to have a single standalone unit for the engine compartment and then a single standalone unit for the interior. And then we've got the wiring diagram and everything minimalized. We're going to be running a different system. We're not going to be running a Haltech like a lot of people do. We're going to be running something else. So stay tuned on that. And I'm going to clean up all the aesthetics, and I'm going to get a theme for the car, and we're going to get ready to do an overall theme and a paint and I don't know, whatever we're going to do to it. But for right now, we're going to focus on the engine compartment. We need to redo some brake lines and move the fuel pressure regulator. That's going to go to a different spot. We are going to go to electronic power steering, so a lot of the power steering stuff is going to go away. Oil cooler, we're yet to decide where it's going to land. We're also going to have a cooler for the power steering, so we're going to have to decide up front where that stuff's going to go. We're going to fiberglass up the front bumper so that we don't have a whole bunch of holes in the front bumper, and then see if we can build a splitter and aero package for the front end to get the air out from underneath it. But anyway, there's a new project. We're going to get the engine in it here in the next, I think he said it'll be ready for the engine in 3 weeks, put it in, and then we'll have another 3 weeks to get it wired and get it running. Hopefully that all goes smoothly. We don't necessarily have to finish up the rear duct and the rear mount radiator just yet, because all we need to do is get it to idle, and we don't need to have the cooling system 100% to do that. So we are going to bring that out through the rear. And the rear of the car has already been cut and prepped for the air to come out. So we're going to be working on high pressure and low pressure zones in this rear area, especially with the exhaust and the wing and the rear mount radiator. And we're probably going to end up designing a few different designs of these side intake buckets just to see how it affects the downforce of the car. Let me see if I can turn this around, set a little precedent. One of the components for the computer system is going to be that it can have an integrated downforce sensors on all four corners in this car. So as we play with the aero and as we make changes to the rear diffuser and to the front splitter and to the side skirts and the rear wing, and make some weight changes, and we're going to be able to see firsthand off of those weight sensors just exactly how that affects this car. And so we're going to be able to pull some really good information off of there. But in order to do that, we're going to need to get this thing on the road and on the ground. So the goal is to have it on the track by March. We're going to try and shoot for February to maybe get an autocross or a track day in, just to beat the piss out of it and make sure everything holds together. It's going to be a pretty extensive build. I know it seems like the car is pretty well put together already, but we got a lot of stuff to go through in a short amount of time to do it. So stay with us. I've never done a drift car, I've never done a time attack car, but I've really wanted to get into the industry. If you're kind of in the same boat, or maybe you know what you're doing with these things, hit the subs button for me. If you like my video, if you like my content, hit the thumbs up. You want to see more, hit the thumbs up for me. It really helps the videos keep going. I'm going to try and post updates of this thing on the weekly, or maybe even a little bit more than that, because like I said, this is going to be a real hot and heavy project, and it's in the shop now. So it's got to get a motor put in it. We're going to do some work on it, and we'll go from there. If you want to have a little influence, now's the time. We're trying to decide on a color scheme and a overall theme for the car. So if you got something out there that maybe you think you'd like to see on an S14, S15 chassis, post up in the comments below and let me know. Our kind of general theme right now is maybe a white in the engine compartment, but a lot of people are doing white, and I'm not sure whether I want to do that or I want to go something crazy unique. My bread and butter is custom paint. I've been doing it my whole life, and there's not a lot of people that know how to do what I know how to do. So the sky is the limit. Don't restrict yourself by what you think I can do. Challenge me. See if I can do it. Give me a cool idea. I'll pull the base out and I'll do it. Show you guys what's up. Anyway, there she is. Hit the sub button for me, fellers. I'll talk at you soon. I appreciate you. Take care. Here we go. Alright, so I got the brake lines stripped out, and then I cut them back short right here, because we're gonna, oh, careful, don't cut yourself. We're gonna make new brake lines, and actually we're gonna rerun those so they look more pretty and they're more out of the way, because we're gonna do some other stuff in here. But what I needed to do, and Andy didn't necessarily say to take this out, but I'm gonna prep the whole engine compartment, so I went ahead and pulled that windshield wiper motor so I could get behind it. And then once I got behind it, I noticed that there was another, I don't know if it's an impact sensor or something, was back here. But then underneath all this jazz, I got an extra hole there, and two right there, two right there, and I got a big fat one up in here. And then my task and goal was to make this hole, that hole, that hole, that hole, and that hole all go away, and then tentatively we were going to use this hole for all the wiring to go through. So I'm kind of looking at everything right now, and this is going to be a lot more air disruption from the wheel well into the engine compartment than any of these other holes are. So I'm going to get in there and I'm going to get that one, and I'm also going to assume that, yeah, there's one over there too, so I'm going to take care of those. I'll get those plugged. But when it comes to these holes right here, Andy had mentioned, well, he was like, oh, don't go through all the work of having to cut all this out, and it's actually, looking at it, before I go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 holes, it's going to be just as easy, if not easier, to just cut this out. And as you can tell, he already kind of massaged it a little bit for whatever was in here before for the RB. So I'm going to take and I'm going to cut all this bullshit out. How's that sound? I'm going to cut it all out like this. In fact, I'm going to come in here. Alright. We got enough light. I'll get some light here in a minute. But anyway, I'm going to come along in here where these holes are and I'm going to cut it back. And actually what that's going to do is it's going to give more room this way in the engine compartment. It is a firewall. So the one thing that if it was a floor panel or a fender, or not even a fender patch, if it was a floor panel or some of the other like rocker panel patches and shit like that, what you can do, and I've done this in some of my other videos if you want to go back and look, you tack them on one side and you stitch them on the opposite. If they get a good stitch weld, if they get a good stitch weld every couple of inches, about 1 inch stitch weld, skip 2 inches, 1 inch stitch weld, then go to the opposite side of the panel and tack, 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 tack all the way around the panel, then you can seam seal it up and it's fine. This is a firewall, so firewall, it's supposed to stop fire. So if the engine catches on fire or something happens in the engine compartment, you want to isolate that fire from the cabin, from the driver. Okay, so follow with me here. So if I cut that out and I don't fully weld it, there's a potential for vapor, gases, and fire to get into the passenger compartment where the driver's going to be sitting. So if I do cut this out of there, I have to fully weld it on one side at the very least before I seam seal it. So that's one thing you got to keep in mind when you're doing firewall modifications, especially if you're working on race cars. Do not cut the firewall on a race car if you do not have to, especially if it's a factory firewall. It's there to prevent fire from coming into the passenger compartment. So I'm going to make sure that that gets fully welded if I do cut it, but I think that's going to be the easiest route rather than having to go through and fully weld and fully weld, fully weld. And I want to make this look pretty and nice, so when, you know, you internet guys come in here and you walk around my race car that I built, you can go, oh shit, look at that, looks nice, rather than going, oh look, hey, he plugged 4 holes right there. So that's my mission. I think that's what I'm going to do. I got all the lines out of the way, and I know what I'm going to do. I got the master cylinder off, I got the front cowl off, so anyway. Alright, so I got the front cowl off, I got the master cylinder off, I got the brake lines off, moved the fuel pressure regulator and all that jazz. This stuff is actually going to get all cut off because we're not actually going to have a front core support. We're just going to have a post to hold the hood down. Because there's nothing going to be nothing else up here. Oh, stepping on brake lines, and we're going to redesign this push bumper in the front to give us the protection that we need. So I got to cut all this off and make it look pretty, and then redesign the hood pin post, which will be easy to do. So we got that to do. Hood pin posts. Cut all this off. Cut that out. Make a patch panel. Put a patch panel in there. Prep everything for paint. We're going to patch panel in there and get rid of the wheel well openings because that's going to let a lot of air in. And then we'll look underneath here, see what we got underneath here, and we'll prep that too.